Good
Good
morning. Good
morning.
morning.
Good morning. Woo, you just caught me having a cacao emergency.
Oh no.
I know. I think
Have
there's
you called
no end.
911?
I have to call upon the jaguars and the hummingbirds to help me. I don't know what it means if you spill your cacao. I have to Google that.
Uh-oh.
I know. I
Um,
have I have this great little hot plate that helps me keep it warm because I like to sip it, and I picked it up and I got excited about show and tell, and then I burned my hand and then I spilled it everywhere. So yeah, so super fun.
Look what I'm drinking my cacao out of this morning.
You have one of the Cheryl mugs going.
I have a Cheryl Brown mug. For those watching on YouTube, these are the mugs that we use for our cacao ceremonies here in Fort Lauderdale. And I loved your description that you gave Cheryl when you told her what you wanted them like. And it does feel like I'm holding the earth and I'm drinking my cacao from the earth. So kudos to both of you for coming together and making these wonderful creations.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
excited.
I'm excited.
Oh, we've got some
We've got
feedback
some feedback.
today. I don't even know what to do
What
about
to
that.
do about it. It's probably because of this milk cacao.
Oh my God, don't say that. My computer is like my lifeline. Hold on. I have a laptop and a desktop, but this is bad. Is it still doing it?
I don't hear it on my end. So
Okay.
I don't know if it's
God
out
help us.
there in
Anyway,
listener bill or not, but you sound just fine to me here.
it's that kind of day. Okay. Um, the mugs. So, yes, years ago, I reached out to a Fort Lauderdale ceramicist who I love, and I told her I wanted to feel like I dug my hands into the earth and I just pulled out this thing, and that's exactly how she created the mugs. She brought them to me, we played with them, felt them in her hands, like felt the weight of it, the warmth of it. That's another thing I love when you're drinking cacao, like your hands are warm. Particularly up here in North Carolina. That's really important in the winter. It's a real nice element of the process. So yeah, but today here's the offending mug. It's not the mug's fault, but it's a little Alice in Wonderland mug. So it looks like three in
Oh,
one.
yes, yes, yes. Now it's making more sense to me. I
Yeah.
like it.
So
I like
anyways,
it a lot.
all good, all good, all good. So how you been doing?
Mostly good. I don't know if you read my email bomb this morning. It was one of those, I shouldn't send this. It's so heavy. But I'm like, no, I don't have to be happy all of the time. And I'm just really feeling the weight of the shit that's out there. And a lot of that comes from, I have people coming in all day and we're doing healing work and, experiencing what they're coming in here with and experiencing what's going on in the world and watching social media. I don't watch the news, but, everybody out there keeps you informed as to what they think is happening in the world. And, um, I guess how it's really hitting me is that, we think that we're doing these things to create change and better the world, but we're doing it from this operating system that is totally flawed and excuse my French, but fuck it up. People are just busting their ass to go out there and make the money to survive. And, I turn on, I go on my Facebook or Instagram, and even in my email is blasted with people that are trying to tell me that they've got the way for me to make more money. And I'm like, I don't want more money. I don't give one rat's ass about money. I want more love. I want more joy. I want more connection. All of the things that I truly want, money can't buy. And we think that we're solving these problems by throwing money at it. And it's not really creating the change that we need to create. We're still killing Mother Earth and we're still working ourselves to the bone. Everybody's exhausted. Nobody has time to do the things that they want to do because they are doing the things that they supposedly have to do. But do we have to do them? Like, I'm, and I apologize to anybody out there that doesn't want to hear this, but I feel like we need to just completely shift the operating system to truly create the change that we want to see in this world. And that's where I'm sitting right now. And yes, I'm okay. Yes, like everything's going to be all right. And I'm really down for the conversation. If anybody has an idea, like how we can truly shift this. One of the things I'm addicted to Gaia TV. I love the shows that they have on there. But I was watching this guy from South Africa, and I feel horrible because I keep forgetting his name. I used to have it stored in my brain, and now it's disappeared. But he has this whole concept of Ubuntu, that we eliminate the monetary system completely. And like there's not even a barter system, but like everything gets taken care of, everything gets handled. Like everybody gets to work 4 hours a week. That's all, or 4 hours a week, 4 hours a day. One or the other. Maybe even 4 hours a week. I don't remember. But like nobody has to work their ass off anymore, and people get to be human and connect and have joy and love in their life. Okay, what is Vanessa saying here? We gotta put this up. Not only do we kill ourselves to work, but even after we accomplish all the things, we still don't feel happy or enough. Money can't buy you joy. Amen, sister. And so I'm just in this space. Like I I don't know what to do, but I feel like I need to do something more that's going to create an actual real shift in humanity, because I know that there is enough for everyone, and I know that we don't have to keep living our lives like this where we're just going to jobs that we hate and work, and some people are out there working 2 and 3 jobs just to make ends meet. Moms that don't get to spend any time with their kids because she's too busy working all her jobs so she can put food on the table for them, and they don't have to go naked to school. I mean, like, it's not okay. And none of that's okay. And so anyway, if anybody has any ideas how we can change this, what we can do, sign me up. I'm on board. And if I
Well,
figure it, I'll let you know. And if anybody wants to join me, let me know.
I appreciate everything that you said, and I've definitely been there myself. I think that you probably hit on 10 different topics of conversation, each of which could be their own podcast, that's for sure. I used to feel flippant about money. I used to, I was raised that money is evil and greed and, rich man, camel, the eye of the needle, whatever, all that. And then I shifted into seeing money as an incredible tool to access things that I cannot otherwise access, because I think there is a reality that we are living where we live. And there are, I mean, we've talked about this, there are immediate threats to people's lives and livelihood. So it is understandable that people live in fear and act from fear. I get it. I understand why that happens. And for some people, I understand that for them, there is no other way, right? If I looked the slightest bit more Hispanic, I would probably be a little bit paranoid about walking through the streets of Miami right now, where people are getting, pulled over by masked men who don't identify themselves, handcuffed and put into a deep, dark van, shipped away, and you don't know where they are. I mean, that's really terrifying stuff. We just heard that they passed a bill saying you can deport U.S. citizens. It's literally goes against the Constitution, right? So there is plenty to be afraid of, no matter how, white you look or how clean you think your record is, even checking your social media. Did you like or dislike, a particular post? Could that ruin your life? I don't know. So there's plenty to be afraid of. I think there's always been plenty to be afraid of. I think that's part of the matrix, is that there is always something to be afraid of. So since that's the baseline. How can we go beyond that, right? How can we exist in current reality, not close our eyes to it, not say peace, love, and happiness while your neighbor is, being destroyed in one way or another, but still carry that peace. And I do think, and I do agree that it has to start with your own heart. And I know it's such a woo woo thing to say, but really all of your intentions have to start with your own heart. How are there people in the world that wake up and only see the negative, and then there are people in the world that wake up and only see the positive? Now I try and be a little bit of both, because I know that there are immediate threats around me all times. And also, I can't live in that fear all the time, because if I did, I'd probably just off myself and be done with it, because what's the point? So I can't live in the fear all the time. You can't have a nervous system that's constantly in fear all the time. You'll literally get sick. So I'm trying to make that conscious effort to start from that place, to start from, I'm okay right now. I am my breath, like literally as simple as that. I am my breath. Let's start there, and then expound that. Like I always used to tell my kids, ripple effect. If you drop a pebble in a pond, there's this massive ripple effect. And these things really do take time. I mean, if you go back, 100 years, 500 years, 1,000 years, things are exponentially better, arguably. And hopefully in 1,000 years from now, things will be even better than that. So what do we have? We have the present, right? So how do you heal yourself in the present? How do you find your center in the present? How do you show up in the world, cognizant of everything that's going on, and compassionately, right? Not, oh, everything's fine. No, everything's not fine. But there's a lot of little bits that are fine. There's a lot of little bits that are incredibly magical, and if I can add more of those and still hold space for the other things, then for me, that's how I do it. That's how I show up. That is my wish. This morning, just before coming on the show, I checked my phone, and my partner had sent me a text message like an hour earlier, which I didn't even notice. And it said, when you wake up, go outside and look at this specific spot by the driveway. There's a baby fawn learning how to walk. And I was like, so I got up, I ran out, I looked, of course it was gone, because the message was like an hour ago. And then I texted him, I'm like, now you're in trouble. I'm like, that's something you should have woken me up for. That's something you should have pulled me out of. That deserves a phone call, not a text message. If there is a baby fawn on my property learning how to walk, mama needs to be there. So
because those things learn how to walk like in a minute, like
man, I'm like,
that's something you have to catch right away.
Please come on, so anyway, but just thinking about it, I mean, look at me, just thinking about it makes me happy. Thinking about it makes me feel better. And if I can string together a lot of little moments that make me feel better, then I get through my day, and I get to show up not just happy for me, but happy for everybody else. Like, to me, even the people that I know that work in really heavy industries, right? Like human rights campaign, and people helping people through addiction, and people that help people in poverty. They are the happiest people I know. I used to volunteer for this one nonprofit that was all kids on ventilators, and they would do a summer camp, and they literally called it the happiest place on earth. So it really is about perspective. It really is, I'm sure you've seen that cartoon of two people on a train, and one is looking at the rock face sad, and the other one's looking out at the view and happy. It's still the same train ride. You get to decide where you're going to look and how you're going to manage it. So I think it all starts with us, and I appreciate you putting that out there, because I think it's important to talk about. I never want anyone to think that, with as positive and uplifting as I hope our messages are, that we are ever unaware of what's happening in the world. My challenge is to feel joy in spite of it, while contributing to, the fixing of it. I hope. That's my hope. So
And I agree with, I think, everything you said. And most of the time I'm living in that space. And, like I said in my email, I don't know if it's the heat or the rain or the planetary alignment. But just like the last few weeks, this has been building for me, building for me, building for me. And it just, it was like a pimple that had to pop.
Nice. I
And
mean, but you and I go back and forth because I'm sure there was that one time, 6 months ago we had an episode. I think it was even titled, or a blog post was titled like Graciela's sad, and I was like, man, I'm sad and I want to feel sad about it. Like what I feel is real. And you can't take that away from me, Now I hope not to sit in it. I hope not to dwell in it. I hope not to, cave my life into this sad pit. Like the joy is in the resistance, the joy is in the action, so anyway, that's a really great topic, which isn't even our topic, so
it's not even our topic. We haven't even gotten to our topic for the day.
but I think it's important, so I appreciate that.
So what is our topic for today?
Oh man, this one I might as well have picked it out myself. What's a book or resource that has profoundly shaped your spiritual journey? Oh man, I'm all about the books.
I know you're about the books, and we'll probably talk a lot about books. So I just want to mention, because it also says resource, and I want to talk about that first, and then because we'll just get lost in the books. But I will say, for me on this journey, and my journey started, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago. And now the spiritual journey is much more out there than what it used to be. But back then, like, I don't even know if Google existed when I started this journey. And even when Google did exist, like when I would search for information on what I was looking for, like you just couldn't find it out there on the internet. And so the most important resource that I found were other people that were on the journey, and people that were maybe a few blocks or a few miles or, a few continents up the road from me. And to be able to spend time with them, share space with them, that I think was the most important resource that I had on the spiritual journey. And, so that's part of why Body and Soul Ministries exist, so that we can come together in community and share with each other like-minded people. And, kind of like what was happening here, like, yeah, I'm a little bit in my shit right now. And so for you to be there and remind me of the things that normally I'm reminding other people of. And but people and community, I think, are the most powerful resource out there. And so I'm just putting that out there as an invitation to anybody listening to us. If you're in Fort Lauderdale, or if you're in or near Murphy, North Carolina, like, you have two resources here. Come up to our events, reach out. Like, I sit and invite people, come and just sit and have a cacao with me and talk, or come to our retreat. That's where the real magic happens.
Yeah, I
But
agree with you 1,000.
Yeah,
I was gonna say I agree with you 1,000%. As much as I love my books, and I have thousands of books in my house, like a crazy person. I feel like almost like the book is the resource and the community is the integration of it, right? Like reading what I read is beautiful and amazing, and I learned so much, but it only exists in my imagination until I can bring it forth into the world, right? Or see it in the world. Maybe I'm reading about something that's there that I didn't know, or a way of experiencing life that I just didn't realize. And so to me, these books are kind of like little guideposts, but the actual path of life, the journey, much for me, must be taken in some type of community. One of my books is about a woman who went to go live in a cave, for years. And even though, quote unquote, she's alone in a cave, she's not. You know, it was a community that helped get her there. It was the support of the community that allowed her to sustain her life there, you know? So community is, I think, how it's meant to be. You know, this past weekend, I don't know if you saw my Facebook. I actually made the post public so anybody could see it, because this group of women here, they got together, they invited me. I was like, oh my God, I get to go. I was so excited. And we went to just this really cool shop slash farm slash amazing, beautiful place out here. Like, anyway, go look at the pictures. They're absolutely gorgeous. But the best part of that was just being with these other women, you know, literally the desire to hug somebody. Like, that is the vibration in my body, literally magnetically pulling me to hug somebody else, you know. And not everybody's a hugger, and that's cool. I always ask permission. But when you're with someone and you just feel that, and then you hug that other person and you feel it, like, there's so much happening there, so far beyond the surface. So even with all the events that we have hosted, with everything that I host at the studio here and the one in Fort Lauderdale and our retreats, literally just sitting in a circle changes my life. Even if all we did was sit in the circle and read a book and not talk, it's still the most powerful thing that I could possibly do. So I agree with you. And really, that's my mission in all of this. You know, I think I mentioned when I was, had my studio in Fort Lauderdale, I found that all of my clients, my female clients, they would all repeat the same thing. I'm here, I'm really successful, but I'm lonely. Or I love everything that I've got going on in my life, but there's something missing. And what I found is that if I just got all these women together, that missing piece would fill in, right? And the rest of what they wanted in their lives would manifest. And it was a really interesting, like, experiment to get people together and just hang out, like, no agenda, no nothing, you know, and it just evolved and evolved and evolved. And, you know, that's how we ended up with everything that Body and Soul is today. But it's called Body and Soul for a reason. You know, you really need both. So that's, I agree with you 1,000%. That's number one, the community.
So since we're talking about books, I want to share my first book. Actually, I don't even know the name of the book. I'm going to share who the author and my experience of this. So early on, you know, my journey started with me having psychic experiences and energy experiences, and not really having anyone to talk to about this. You know, what was this that was going on? What was I experiencing? And back in those days, I was a regular watcher of Oprah. And one day she has on this woman, Sylvia Brown. And I don't hear her name anymore. Like, I hope she's not forgotten, but I feel a little bit like she has kind of been forgotten. But she was a Hay House author way back in the day. And she had written several books about being psychic, her journey with it, and just like tips and support for people who were experiencing that themselves. And so I always, like, Sylvia Brown was kind of my first support system out there on my spiritual journey, and like letting me know that the things that I was experiencing, like, I wasn't crazy. Like, well, maybe I am crazy, but but other people out there are having these same experiences, and it's normal and something you should work with and develop. And so I know she had a bunch of books out there, but you know, she was kind of crazy lady. She had these long nails. She always wore like moo-moos and jewelry.
I love that. I love that. That's my goal.
But you know, if anybody out there wants to go old school psychic spiritual journey, go check out Sylvia Brown. I don't even have any of her books anymore. You know, we were talking before we got on the show that I used to be very possessive of my books, and now I'm in that space where if I have a book that someone around me needs to read and it's sitting right there, probably I'm going to give it to you. There's very few books that um feel so possessive about that I won't give them away. Like I do have some like books that are signed by the author to me. Like those I'm probably holding on to, but a lot of the other books, it's like, look, we're in the moment here. Take this book, go read it. If I need it again, I know Amazon will bring it to my door in a day.
Well, and that's a whole nother thing, right? And forgive me for looking down, but of course, typical woman, I'm talking to you guys and I'm handling a family crisis because why isn't that? I mean, that of course makes perfect sense. So, sorry about that.
That's all right.
That makes sense.
You
But
want to talk
yes,
about a book, or do you want me to? I only have one other book that I want to mention today, and if you want me to keep going, I can do that.
I think we're gonna be okay here in a minute. Okay, all right. Thank you. Disaster averted. Look at me finding my center.
There you go.
Thank you for sharing that, and I'm sorry I couldn't give you my full attention there. But I did hear you say moo and I do want you all to prepare yourself. I am heading into the moo phase of my life. I don't care what anybody says. I'm going full moo any minute now. I've started investing in linen and I'm heading comfortable. But all right, can I share a book or two or
I would
five
love for you to share a book or two.
or 10? So I have to say, one of my one of the important steps for me in my spiritual journey is actually completely outside of the spiritual realm, which was someone handed me a book. It was called, I couldn't find it this morning, but it was called Adult Children of Alcoholics. And that book, when I read it, and I was probably in my maybe late 20s or maybe even my 30s, I read that book and it was like reading a diary. I was like, oh my God, somebody knows my life. Like, I can't, like, I could not believe what I was reading. And I bring that up because I really think that healing my wounded child, healing my traumatic past has been a huge part of that spiritual journey. Because until I was able to kind of clear that cobwebs out of my, mind, I couldn't see all of the things that were available to me. So I have been in a spiritual community since birth, one religion, one path, one whatever. It's been different over my whole life, but there's always been a presence of, that there's more outside of myself, but I could not access what I needed to access until I did so much of that healing work. And once I did, then I saw everything so much more clearly. So I share that to say that if you're struggling finding that spiritual center, feeling that peace, that maybe where you need to start is a little bit further back into your own childhood, into your own, traumatic experiences. I love Dr. Gabor Mate. He's a modern therapist and who's really taken a deep dive into trauma and the work that we do. My personal opinion, you asked, like, what can we do to get the world's shit together? Let's focus on mental health, because that is, to me, one of the biggest, most important things. Another beautiful book, and I do have show and tell for this one. Does it show up straight or does it show up backwards?
No, I see it perfectly.
You can see it. Okay.
For meaning.
Man's Search for Meaning. It's a tiny little book. It is a gentleman who survived the Holocaust. And if I'm not mistaken, he's a psychologist. And the first half of the book delineates his experience, but the second half of the book really talks about what makes the human spirit, survive, right? What is it that keeps people alive even through the most terrible things? And why do some people, give up, and die at the slightest threat of a problem? So it's really, really very interesting. It's such a concise read, really powerful. I highly recommend it. I won't spoil it, what the answer is, because it's kind of a cool answer. So definitely check that one out. You want another one?
Well, let's go back and forth, because I do want to make sure I get this book out here. I think like my favorite, because I get asked all the time, people come in and lay on my table and they want to know, what can I read to support me on my path? And one of my favorite, probably I shouldn't say one of my favorites, probably my favorite book to recommend to people, is The Four Agreements. Partially because it's super short and concise, so it's not like, my boyfriend last week told me to read this book, and the book is like 600 pages, and I am reading it, but it just like when I ordered the book not knowing how long it was, and when it got here and it's like this thick, I'm like, what? I ain't got time for this. Where's the four? Not only is it thin, but it's like tiny too. And there's just, and I pulled them up on my phone because I get in that space where like I know what the four agreements are, but then when I have to tell someone what they are, I can't remember them. And we've talked about them on the show before, but be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personal. Don't make assumptions, and always do your best. And they are simple, and they are super complex and deep, and like you can dive into them. I'd also, we used to have a book club pre Graciela, and I've thought over and over about bringing the book club back. And most recently, though, I've been thinking about like doing a group reading of that book, and everyone go read the book, and then let's gather in the womb here and talk about it and share about it. But it is truly just the simplest and most complex, deep place to start. And so if you don't know where to start, I highly recommend that. And we do want to, Cheryl just joined us, and I have to bring her on, and because I think she missed, but I'm drinking from your mug on the show today. So we talked all about you before you got here.
Yes, and I agree with you. I do think that is a fabulous book, and I do think that you hit the nail on the head when you said, spiritual journeys really do begin, and throughout, with the simplest, tiniest principles, in all the different ways that religion and spirituality has entered my life. I find that the common threads through them all, I think, are the most truthful things, like the four agreements, like be kind, like do unto others as you would have done unto you. I mean, I don't care how you phrase that. I don't care what book you read it out of. It's still true, right? Just to be like a good human being. So I agree with you. One of the, I love me a TikTok, and I always tell people, don't give up on TikTok, curate it, right? TikTok University can teach you a lot. You just got to make sure you're listening to the right people. And one of the things I saw the other day, I might have mentioned this, was for happiness, accept everything. And I was like, wow, okay, that's big. Accept everything. Like whatever happens, accept it, it doesn't mean don't do anything about it. It just means that take out that fight from it, right? Take out that fight from inside, which for me is a really big deal, because I'm always like no, it shouldn't be like that, right? So that was a big one for me. Another super simple one, I brought it up in last week's episode, Pieces Every Step. This is such a beautiful book. Again, it's tiny. It's not super complicated, but it is profound in the simplest way. I absolutely love that one. I'm bringing up all the ones from when I very first started, actually. These are all the ones that kind of like blew my mind open. This is another one of my favorite books, Cave in the Snow. This is the woman, obviously, that went to go live in the cave. It learned a lot of really good ways of looking at the world in there. I literally have a ton more. Like, I have so many. I could do this all day. But anyway, the point is, I like where we started, I think these books are the beginning of the journey. I think hanging out with people that get it, people that are further along than you on the path, and allow them to pull you up. And then when you're along, you pull someone else up. There's always someone in front of you. There's always someone behind you. And I think, how did I even ever hear about these books if not for a community telling me to read it? Rarely have I gone to the bookstore and just aimlessly found a book that changed my life. 99% of the time, somebody recommended it to me, somebody that I admired, somebody that I looked at their life and I said, wow, how do you get to be so happy? I want to be that happy. How are you living the life of your dreams? How do you do that? I want to do that, And then I pick something up and I use it and I do it and I create it. And, so that's how I'm seeing it.
Awesome. I'd love for our audience to share, what books have, had a profound impact on their life. And so if you're listening to this now, or if you're listening to the replay, like, please share the books that you think people should read that help on this amazing journey called life. And yeah, because there's so many good books out there, and I know I've missed some of them. And it's funny, even like you brought up the Viktor Frankl book, and like you confess to me that you've never read the Four Agreements. I confess to you, I've never read the Viktor Frankl. It's like I know about it, and on some level I feel like I have read it because I know so much about it. But then and I also didn't realize that it's so small. So now that I know that it's small, I will probably I will either read it or possibly listen to it, because that's my solution for not having enough time for things is some books I do read, because that there is something so special about holding a book, and like books have energy and life in them that is different than listening to it. I will say I was hugely against listening to books for a long time. And then there was a time in my life where I had assignments to read a lot of books that I just didn't have time to do it. And I was like, okay, how can I make this happen? And that's when I caved, and I was like, okay, I'm going to listen to the audiobooks. And once I started doing that, I was like, this isn't as bad as I thought it was. So now I do both. And
remember that, traditions have been passed down for centuries orally. This is storytelling, right? The other thing that I always do is I've always found words that have been created and put down, whether it's orally or written or whatever, but to me, every word is sacred. And so if someone went through the effort of writing it and typing it,
with your word.
What's that? Be impeccable with your word.
Be impeccable with your word.
Yes, but in high school, I remember reading, and I would always skip like the first chunk of the book, right? I would go straight to the first chapter and I would skip all of this other stuff. And then later on, I was like, you know what? Somebody went through all the effort of writing this. Let me read actually this. So I always read the foreword. I always read the introduction. I always read the table of contents. Sometimes even the copyright page has some really cool information there, because then you can see like how many editions it has had. And then you can dig through the old editions and figure out what changed. And there's a lot of really interesting stuff in there. And if you're not a reader and you're a listener, do that. And if both of those things are too much for you, then the answer is community. Anytime I teach anything in our retreats, in our circles, and it is information that I have gathered from someone, either that I went and I listened to something, or a book that I read that I highlighted. Like I was, showing you earlier, like these tabs have been here probably for 20 years, the highlighting is still in there and I refer back to it. So if you don't have time to read Man's Search for Meaning, but you're dying to know what it's about, let's talk about it, and you don't need an AI generated summary. You're not going to integrate it like that. Like, yes, you're going to be able, it's like a recipe. You're going to be able to read it and you're going to understand it. But until you physically do it, until you make that dish, until you have a conversation with somebody about it, it's not going to sit with you. So I welcome that conversation, and honestly, the retreat that we have coming up, which we do have a bed left. And a lot of my outline is from a lot of these books, So if you don't have time to read the books, it's okay. You can trade time for time. Come with us on the retreat. I will tell you all about it. It's going to be really cool. And I'm really excited to share all the things that I've learned and put into practice in my own life through these books.
Yay. Wait, Cheryl's got something for us. Being and Doing Nuggets, Craig Hamilton. And daily emails and newsletters are my go-to sources. And that's something too. Like, there are a lot of people out there putting, like, sometimes a book is overwhelming, but get on somebody's email list and you can get just pieces of nuggets at a time that can go a long way as well. Like, there's books can overwhelm and be a lot, but you can break it down into little nuggets of and then get their emails, or again, like you said, like TikTok, but any of the social medias out there. Like, there's people that you can follow that will fill your soul and teach you things. And so yes, reach out and curate your list.
I think the plus side of the technological age that we're in is that you literally have access to almost everything in the world. And even though there are threats to a lot of that, there's always a way, there's always a resource. And even if you burn books, you still can't get rid of people, and you can't get rid of memories, and you can't get rid of sharing. So to circle back right to where we first started, I hate to belabor the point, but it's community, because even if all the books disappear, even if all the audiobooks disappear, we still have oral tradition. We still learn from each other, and we're still connected with our hearts. Whatever you believe, we're still together. So, yeah.
And I think you've said it many, many times, but everything you need is within you. And these things, what we're reading from other people, like that wisdom is inside you as well. And so it's just who happened to tap into that to be able to share with anyone. But I get frustrated when people think that they own some piece of wisdom or knowledge. Like, no, it's within all of us. We appreciate you that you were able to tap into that and access and share it, but the wisdom is within each and every one of us. So starting the Power of Love Summit today from Wisdom for Life Online. And that sounds right up my alley, because yes, I am the queen of love over here. And I truly believe that love is the solution to every problem that's out there. And Cheryl's all with us today. What's she got now?
Thank you, Cheryl. Community, thank you for being a part of mine. We appreciate Cheryl so much. Everybody check her out.
Yes, and
right.
I love having her at so many of our events that are here in Fort Lauderdale, and I love the community that's growing. And yes, like, when we come together, all of this is amplified, and it really does make a difference.
Yeah, and it's okay. Last thing, because I keep trying to end the episode, but I keep having another thought. So I just want to emphasize how much, and I say this to my photography clients, like, you can prepare, you can read, you can do all of these things, but leave room for magic. Like, leave room for the unexpected. When you come to our events, You might know the itinerary, you might know the things we are going to do, but you can never guess the experience that you're going to have. And that's not because of us or anything that we do, it's because of the space that we create. And every single time I have an event and I think to myself, oh, it's just another one of these, or oh, it's just going to be one of those, like let me not, get overly excited about it, calm down, right? I always feel like I'm too much. And then we have the event and something incredibly profound happens every single time. Like there's never been a boring cacao and cards. There's never been a boring cacao ceremony or a sound bath. There's always something so magical and so profound and so amazing that happens. And it blows me away every single time. And it's what keeps me going to the next one, because I'm like, okay, who's going to show up? What magic are they going to bring? What life experience are they going to bring that it never occurred to me to even think about? And now I get to see a whole new dimension in this world. So just leave a little room for magic, because whatever you think is going to happen, more and better and more beautiful things happen beyond what you can imagine. So
amen. All right. Are we wrapping it up now, finally?
that's it. We're done. I'm emptied out.
All right. I want to wish
All right,
everybody a magical day out there.